Hey guys, Enigmatic Mr. L here, back with you today for another Fire Emblem tier list. It's a bit different from the previous ones I've done because previously I'm only looking at each Fire Emblem character purely based on their unit, like good combat, good utility like healing, good defense, movement, that sort of thing. But this time I'll also be looking at just something very subjective, just their characters. Do you like this one's personality or not? I'm also not going to be reviewing making a tier list for just one game. It's rather I have all of the lords from the Fire Emblem series, and they will be going on this alignment chart. As you can see, there are a few characters that it's debatable whether or not they count as a lord, like Lilina or Alincia, but I'm just going with the one the tier list gave me. So x-axis is going to indicate how their unit performance is. The further left they are, they're just terrible at combat, can't survive anything, don't contribute much, and an efficient playthrough. And the right is going to be the opposite, going to be very good. Utility, combat, just makes the game easier, that sort of thing. Whereas this y-axis is just how I like them as a character. Very, very subjective. Down here, either I just don't care about them that much a lot. They're just boring or outright annoying. Up here, I find them very interesting. So further right, further up, better. Further left, further down, the worse. We could have someone up here, which is amazing character, terrible. Just don't deploy them that much. Versus right here, you'll deploy them, you'll use them, but you won't like them that much. All right, now that I think I've established the guidelines, let's just start it. I'm going to be trying to go in chronological order throughout the series, but these weren't ordered properly, so I'm probably going to have to miss me and come back, but oh well. But starting with Marth, the poster boy for the Fire Emblem series. Marth is a bit of a tricky case because he's been the star in 4 games, that being Fire Emblem Shadow Dragon Braid of Light, aka FE1, Mystery of the Emblem, aka FE3, Shadow Dragon, and New Mystery of the Emblem, aka FE11 and FE12. And his performance as a unit greatly varies depending on what game you're playing. Because I would argue in the first game, Shadow Dragon, the Blade of Light, he might be like the best unit in the game. It's hard to say. I'm not super familiar with that game. I've only completed it once, but having all of the enemies aggro Marth, they will always attack him over another unit. All stats on HP capped at 20 is a very good candidate for the stat booster items. And in many Fire Emblem games, if you're playing efficiently, you'll like warp a boss killer, then warp in your Lord to seize the throne. But Marth can just do both at once. He can warp, kill the boss, and then seize on the next turn. Which, I mean, granted, you won't clear on turn 1, but I mean, that's still very good. Saves you a use of the warp stat. But then on the other hand, you got like Shadow Dragon, where not sure exactly where, somewhere on this side, because he's the only unit, in addition to the problems he had from FE1, he doesn't retain the advantages. He doesn't have the aggro mechanic, and also there's the stat cap of 20 isn't there. He still can't promote, which didn't hurt him as much in FE1 because again, you just use those very potent stat boosting items, but higher difficulty Shadow Dragon, so I've been told there's more competition for him. They're not as potent, and also not being able to reclass, not being able to promote hurts him a lot worse in that game. Then, like Mystery of the Emblem, I'm not really sure about that Mystery. I think he's still pretty good there, but I've only completed book 1. And a New Mystery of the Emblem, he's all right. I'm probably gonna split it somewhere and say he's slightly good, like above average. It's a pretty tricky case. As far as character goes, I know many of his characteristics, just brave, kind, heroic, maybe even a little bland. He could be argued for just being overdone, cliched, that sort of thing. But Martha's the first lord. I think he's fairly interesting. I like him a bit. As with many people, my first introduction to Fire Emblem was through Smash Brothers Melee. He's the poster boy of the series. You gotta like him a little bit. He's kind of set the standard. I would say instead of cliche, maybe classic is a better way to define him. Not super interesting, not the most complex character, but overall, this is going to get really messy later on. I'm going to tell you right now, a bunch of characters all in this area here, they're going to get crowded. But I think overall, it's overall better than average, a little bit better, and I like a bit more than average. This might move up and down, but for now, I think that's good. Next game is Fire Emblem Gaiden, which brings us Alm and Celica. I'm just going to bring him up now. I haven't actually played Gaiden. I've only played its remake, Fire Emblem Echo Shadows of Valentia, and that was about 4 years ago now. So my memory of the specifics is a little fuzzy. I want to play it again at some point, but for now, I'm just going to wait so I know. If memory serves, he's pretty good. He gets that special sword only he can use. He's pretty good at combat. He's not this super unstoppable killing machine juggernaut, but pretty good. I think. Yeah, here's fine for now, I guess. I think there are other units that are going to be better, but it's good. And Celica, likewise. I guess I should talk about his personality. I think if I don't play Gaiden, if memory serves, he didn't really get much personality there, but they greatly fleshed him out in Shadows of Valentia. I still like Marth more just because obviously Marth is way more iconic than all, but okay. Yeah, Marth's still above him a little bit, but I mean, he's fine, baseline. Good. Celica, I think, is a little bit better because she can heal. And in addition to that, just me being just wrong in terms of preferences. Just like Fisher said, I could just be wrong off of memory. But she's got access to magic and healing in addition to swords. So in addition to combat, she's got good utility. As far as a character goes, I think her and Alma are the most fleshed out characters in the game, plus maybe a few others like Mycen. But I do think her chemistry with Alma, it's cute. I think it carries a lot of the cast, which I think is rather fairly one note. But there's some stuff she does later in the plot, which often gets called into question how stupid it is. I can kind of see where they're coming from, but also it kind of makes sense. She's doing things to protect Alm. I think I'll knock her a little bit for that. Not quite as on, but it's slightly better. So this way they're right next to each other. That's cute. So next would be Sigurd from Genealogy of the Holy War, as well as Selith. And yeah, we're just gonna go ahead and put Sigurd way over here. I mean, I'll leave him a little bit. I mean, I think I can go ahead and with that. There might be characters that are slightly better than Sigurd across the full Fire Emblem series, but when you compare Sigurd to any unit in a Fire Emblem game, it's comparing a gold-plated diamond to a diamond-plated gold bar. I mean, yeah, one might be worth more than the other if you look at how much they weigh and like the value of diamond versus the value of gold and quantity of each, but I mean, Sigurd is just amazing. I mean, yeah, people have pointed out it's not as easy to solo the game with Sigurd as some may make it out to be. Like, it's still commendable people can do it, but the most efficient, the easiest way is going to be use the other army members too. But I mean, even in my playthrough of Genealogy of Holy War, I didn't just solo the game with Sigurd, but I did kind of juggernaut. It was like him and a few others. His base stats are very good. The Holy Blood's good. He gets a silver sword very early on, just retcast with that, and he can just keep repairing that. Being high movement and Genealogy of Holy War it's very good, coming pre-promoted. And unlike some other units like Alec and Noish, which I guess Beowulf, yeah, they're mounted, but their combat isn't good as some of your foot units. Like Sigurd just has the best of both worlds. He's got everything you would need in any unit, good stats, high movement with the mount, and the pursuit skill. And he's just going to keep getting stronger as the game goes on. He's your strongest unit. He's going to lead to killing most bosses, which gives you those stat boosting items like the speed ring, power ring, etc. And because Genealogy of Holy War doesn't allow free trading, you're likely to just keep them on Sigurd, and he's just going to keep getting more powerful as the game goes on. So, very good unit. Selith, also from Genealogy of Holy War, he's like... Oh, okay. I should probably mention Sigurd's character, though. I mean, I don't hate it, but I don't want to talk too much about Genealogy of the Holy War, because, I don't like, spoiling the game, but he just makes some, questionable decisions. Like, I think I can mention this. It's like, he meets this beautiful woman, and he just falls in love with her because she's beautiful. Like, I mean, I guess you can, there's always a little bit of unrealism in this, and it's implied that, they spent more time than what we just realized saw them in game. But it's from directly from the game. It's like, oh, this beautiful woman, marry me, and then that's it. There's some other things. It's just, yeah, not too great. His son Seliph, in terms of his utility as a unit, he's basically just Sigurd light. Like we're gonna put him, right next to his father. I'm sure I got Sigurd all the way over there. Because, like I said again, there might be some units that are technically better, but it's so close to calls. I think Sigurd putting all the way right is just very good. He requires some investments to get going. Like once he mounts, he gets the mount, and he's still very good. As a unit, though, at least Sigurd had something. I just think Seliph is very bland, like Marth, but without the charm. Like, that's kind of Seliph. I don't know. I guess it's not as faulty as his father, but also like not as memorable. Kind of want to tie them, and I'll put them like a little bit lower. Because I don't know what's worse, having something you just kind of dislike a character for, or just being kind of forgettable as far as your character goes. Yeah, I think just a little bit lower than Sigurd, that'll be fine. Next up, we have Leif from Thracia 776. Leif appears in Genealogy of the Holy War as well, but I'm just going to be looking at his Thracia 776 incarnation as far as his unit utility goes. And this one's tricky because I think one of the things Leif excels at, among other things, is his high availability. Like, he's the only character in that game from start to finish who's available in your party. Also, with the fatigue system, Leif is the only unit that doesn't get fatigue, so you can deploy him every map. He's a good candidate to soak up ballista attacks if you want to take things kind of slowly, just deplete the ballistas gradually. But in this particular tier list, we're gonna have some Lord characters that come late into the game, and normally in a tier list you kind of dock points for that. It's like, I don't know, this character's good when you have them, but they're not around for much. I figured in this tier list, I would just look at how good a unit is when you have them. Like, I'm not really taking availability into account. And if you take that out of the picture, it's like, yeah, Leif still has some advantages. He has his supports with many of the casts, which, grants them 10 hit, 10 avoid, 10 crit, and 10 crit avoid. That's nice. He has a good personal weapon, the light brand. But, just in terms of combat, he's fairly lackluster compared to some of the other units. So, taking that out, I think still not terrible, but the first one I think that comes on this side. If you take away the fact that he's available the whole game and he doesn't have fatigue, just looking at how you have them, it's like, yeah, I think this is fair. Also, unit, I think it's gonna be about parallel with Marth because, again, kind of himself, not to the same extent. It's like a homeland. It's a young prince. He's kicked out of his homeland, trying to build an army, reclaim it. It's like, sound familiar? And I think he has a bit more charm than Seliph. Like, there's that Thracia 776 is very good on gameplay integration. Like, when you're in an area in the game, it's like story-wise, none of your units want to be there. Thracia does a good job of, gameplay, story integration, ludo-narrative. I mean, he gets some points for that, but still, it's like, I didn't find his story as compelling or iconic as some of these other characters, so I think here's fine for now. Next character we have is Roy from Fire Emblem, the Binding Blade. And as far as the unit goes, yeah, I wish I could drag this out more, but I can't. Jokes aside, Roy, he's not good. The problem with Roy is, or I should say the problems, is he has so many things going against him, which if you look at them in isolation, they're not too bad. Like, maybe if you look at just that one problem itself, it's like, okay, yeah, excuse me. Maybe if you look at, just one of Roy's problems by itself, it's like, okay, this may prevent this unit from being, amazing, but I mean, they can still contribute. They'll maybe be okay, maybe even good, but Roy's problems is like, okay, where do I even begin? He's a sword lock, foot lock unit, so he's got low movement, and he can't attack at 1-2 range. You know who else is a sword lock foot unit in that game? Rutger, and he's considered one of the best characters in the game. So it's like, well, what's the deal? But, and it doesn't stop there. His base stats are very lackluster, so he kind of has to rise growth. He doesn't promote until almost literally the very end of the game. So once he hits level 20, he's just going to be an experience sponge. You can't, gain experience through combat or anything really. Every map in Binding Blade is a Seize the Throne map, so you always have to haul Roy over to seize it. And you have two options this way. You can just manually walk Roy over from top to tile, in which case it's going to take you a long time to complete the map. And even ignoring like efficiency settings, like LTC, that sort of thing, Binding Blade has very nasty enemy reinforcements that attack on the same turn they spawn. So you're going to want to try to complete your maps quickly, but at the same time, your other option is to have like a mounted unit like Milady or Lance or someone, rescue him, take him to the throne. But as most of you probably know, in Binding Blade, when you rescue a unit, you're skill and speed wrapped. So someone has pointed out, it says, Roy's the worst lord in Fire Emblem, not only because he fails to contribute very little, but also because he's an active burden on the player. Like, someone also said, it's like, I think Roy's the only unit that has negative utility. Like, he actually hurts the player. So, lackluster bases, low movement, no 1-2 range, required to seize a throne, late promotion. You look at any of this stuff in isolation, it's like, yeah, Marth had lackluster base stats, but his growths were good. He's also required to seize the throne, but he has 2 more movement. He's got higher movement. Roy's a late promotion. Marth doesn't have a promotion in any of his games, but like FE1, stat boost is very potent. He's a good candidate for him. Cap his thing is 20. Roy's just very bad. Yeah. Oh, speaking of very bad, I should probably mention how he is as a character. Keep forgetting to do that. This is kind of a tricky one because, on the one hand, he kind of feels just like Marth 2.0, just this bland, heroic character, like, gonna embark on this quest, fight in this war, save everyone. But you gotta love the story gameplay integration here, just because Roy is just like a young student who has these responsibilities thrust upon them, and he's still trying to figure things out. Like, I think his sports with was it Cecilia? Pointed out that he's just a student. And there's good gameplay integration because you actually do feel like Roy is just a student there trying to figure things out. Like I said, because he's terrible. So I'm probably going to leave it like right on the line. Because on the one hand, he is very bland, but on the other hand, that good gameplay story integration, it's like, yeah, I got to give him some credit for that. So I'll leave him right on the line. Next, we got Lyn. Also bad unit. You could probably argue that Lyn is worse than Roy, because Roy at least does something. He'll contribute in the first few chapters against all the, axe pros. You have a weapon triangle advantages against them. The rapier is a niche weapon. It can come in handy in the first early bosses. And then at the end, he gets the Binding Blade, one of the most broken weapons in the entire series, and contributes there, versus Lyn. And then the efficient playthrough will never contribute to anything. Sure, attack and defense leave so much to be desired. She's just going to, get killed to anything, can't do damage to anything. But Lyn is only force deployed on a few maps. And of those maps, she doesn't have to seize the throne. You just, put her in a safe area, keep her safe. It's not too difficult most of the time. And that's it. So she doesn't contribute anything, but she also is not like an active liability. There's always, he contributes a little bit, but he's so much of an active liability that I'm putting here. If I was being fair, I'd probably, swap these two. It's like, all right, but it's like move Lyn here, move something like this. But, my list, my rules, Roy, for all the pain he caused me in both my Binding Blade playthroughs. I'm going to leave him here. Also, Roy can't do anything, even just on, normal mode. He struggles. Lyn, if you play on Eliwood normal mode or Hector normal mode, she can at least do something. She's still not going to be your best unit, but see if she can contribute. As the unit goes, as a character goes, yeah, she's all right. Not quite as good as Marth just for his iconicness, but Lyn is one of the first lords I think many of us had experience with. Fire Emblem Blade. It's not my first game, but it's one of my first. It was my introduction to the GBA Fire Emblem, which I really like. You look past it and you realize she actually contributes very little to the story. Just all of her things just often just go back to mentioning Sakai, but there's a certain charm to her, like watching interactions with Hector and Eliwood. It's mildly charming, not fantastic character, but passably enjoyable. Next we have Roy's father, Eliwood. Also, just like his son, Not a great unit. Could be argued that Roy is better than his father because he'll contribute more in the early game. Axe Bros against Axe Bros, whereas Eliwood faces a lot of lance wielding enemies, so has weapon trial disadvantage of over, and Eliwood gets the Durandal, whereas Roy gets the Binding Blade. And the Binding Blade's a much better weapon, and Roy will still contribute even if you don't like invest in him in efficient playthroughs like towards the end, which is Eliwood. A lot of players aren't going to go to the trouble to promote him. I do think if you do go to trouble promote him, like Eliwood can do something approaching competence, and he has like I don't know, roughly like 10 or so chapters to contribute, which is 10 or so chapters, at least in like Hector mode. That's way more than Roy has a time to shine. When Eliwood promotes, he gets a mount, gives him higher movement, and he has access to javelins, therefore 1-2 range. That's something. Still not that great. It's probably not worth investing, but I think he's better than Eliwood but somewhere between Leaf and Lyn. Sounds about right. As far as a unit, I mean, he's passable, I'd say. Very pragmatic. Do you find some interest in his tale, like trying to investigate what happened to his father? His interactions, the bromance with Hector, that's pretty good. Still, somewhat bland, but yeah, so far there's not that many lords that are ranking that high in terms of character. Like Fire Emblem can have many interesting and quirky characters, but a lot of times the lords are fairly bland. But what breaks the trend though is actually our next candidate. We got Hector. I'm actually going to talk about his character first. I think so far he's the most interesting one we've had. He's very loyal to his friend Eliwood, and you can tell his heart's in the right place, but he's also just kind of has, very blunt manner, but it's very entertaining just watching all of his quips, like with Lyn. Also, when you play Hector mode, you get to see more time, like his relationship with his brother and some of his people of Ostia, Sarah, Matthew, Oswin. Very good. A lot of people like this one. And also, just as a unit, not sure exactly where. Maybe I should move these over. Said I wasn't going to take validating factor, but I mean, yeah, I guess here's now. Maybe they're better than Alm and Celica, but I think here's fine for now. Very good strength and defense. Gains access to axes, so he has the 1-2 range as opposed to the other lords. The only good lord you have in Blazing Blade, in my opinion. Like Eliwood is fairly mediocre, Lyn is useless, but Hector, I mean, he's not the strongest unit in the game. He's no Hawkeye, Pent, Harkin, Marcus, and some of the Christmas Cavaliers if you train them up in Lyn mode or Florina, but he can contribute a lot. I think here's fair. Next character is Ike from Path of Radiance and Radiant Dawn. And just like with Marth, it's a bit of a tricky case because he's in 2 different games, and how good he is as a unit is very different. Because in Path of Radiance, he's basically like Roy, but better, right? Roy, but good. Because he's a sword lock foot loop unit, kind of shaky stats. Then he has a somewhat late promotion, not as late as Roy's. Then he starts doing better, and when he gets a very powerful weapon in like the last 2 chapters, just wreck house with it. But for most of the game, Ike's he'll be okay, I guess. He's going to get outclassed by the cavalry units. Path of Radiance is a very mount heavy game. Titania, Oscar, Karen, is that how you pronounce his name? He gets outclassed by them, but he can still contribute, and he does a lot in the end. And then Radiant, he'd be, I don't know, not sure exactly where. And then Radiant Dawn, he's very good. Just starts out the game with base stats, just gets stronger from there. That's hard. He's definitely not as good as Hector in Path of Radiance. Well, I don't know, kind of close. Then, I don't know. I feel like Path of Radiance would be, somewhere here, maybe here. I'm not sure. I feel like we'd be kind of close to Hector, but he's definitely somewhere like over here in Radiant Dawn. So I think overall, I'll give it to better than Hector. Let's see. As a unit, I think he's one of the most interesting lords in series. Many people because He's the only one so far that's not of noble blood. He's just like a mercenary, gets caught up in the war. And seeing just this tale of him learning the world and like dealing with issues of racism and nobility, it's an interesting tale. So I'm gonna put it here. In Radiant Dawn, I think he doesn't get as much character development, but yeah, a lot of characters don't. I guess Radiant Dawn was built on the concept that you play Path of Radiance first, get the character development there, and it's just natural continuation from that. But still very interesting. I think I'm kind of lowering these just to make room for some very good ones coming up. But getting some good lords. Then the sequel to Path of Radiance also introduced us to Micaiah. And as a unit, she's just not that good. She's very slow. She's gonna have trouble doubling, and she's very frail. Being slow and frail is not a good combination because at least if you're fast, like even Lynn, you have a chance to dodge tank and you won't get doubled. Micaiah will almost struggle against anything. Even if the first hit is like 75% accuracy misses, most enemies are going to double her unless you very heavily invest into her, which isn't the best use of your resources. Yeah, I think I'll go with like Worse Leaf. Just Leaf has more utility. I mean, she does have healing, like Sacrifice. That's something, and 1-2 range. But Leaf, I feel is more dodgy. He doesn't get doubles consistently, even if it's like relatively poor base stats and growths. Micaiah, you very have to heavily invest in her just to reach the point where she's doubling armor knights. And then just as a character, don't hate her, but I just feel like in part 1, just like everything is revolved around her. Like oh, the Silver Handmaid, oh, she's so great, oh, she's so awesome. And then maybe it's yeah, it's kind of hard to say what it is. I mean, she's all right, I guess, but I don't know. I don't want to say Mary Sue, but just in the first part, I don't think she's the most like interesting character. So I think here's fair. Also, dealing with Path of Radiance, Radiant Dawn, we got to deal with Lincia, who I do kind of like her story. She's she has to recruit Ike for help in like Path of Radiance and their travels together. She doesn't have as much screen time Radiant Dawn, but you do get to see her struggles as a ruler and what that entails. So I think as a character, I think here's about good. As a unit, normally I would penalize her for not appearing much chapters in either game. I think when you have her, just having a flying healer like that alone by itself, rescue dropping, physic, that sort of thing, that's good enough, I think, to put you like here. Yeah, that sounds about good. Soniki, not playable in Path of Radiance, playable in Radiant Dawn, and just never really has a chance to contribute anything. At that point, you have like much better units. She's forced to play in the tower, but unless you very heavily train her up, I think in the first 2 chapters leading up to the tower, most of the other units are just going to surpass her in every way. She's going to, I think she has like 1 siege tome she can kind of do things with, but even being forced to play in the tower, she doesn't have an opportunity to do much of value. And it's her character. I think Radiant Dawn improves it some, but there are reasons for what she does, but she can still come across as like a sassy lost child. Could be like a little bit annoying. Put her a little bit better than Micaiah just because the character goes from Radiant Dawn, but yeah, it sounds about good. Oh, I told you I was going to skip over one at some point. I completely skipped over Sacred Stones. We got Erica and Ephraim. I'll go with Erica first because that's the first Lord you meet in the game. Talk to the character first. Some people don't like her just because some of her like questionable, decisions, particularly one thing, towards the end of the game. I feel like she doesn't grow or much as a character, but I do think it is her personal journey. She needs to like start learning how to rely on others, and she like learns combat from Seth and Ephraim. I think it's fairly interesting. I like her all right. Yeah, maybe it's just biased because she's cute. I don't know, but And Martha's a little more iconic, even though he's arguably more bland than Erica, but I think slightly above good, because like, I don't know, like I can kind of understand where people are coming from, like towards their decisions at the end, but I think it's good. But as a unit, um, yeah, not that great. That's it. Yeah, sure. Has more opportunity to than Ellie would because she's force deployed in the first 8 maps. There's like Hector mode. Ellie would just force deploys in a few maps, but gets them out when she promotes. It gets a very powerful weapon, very good speed, very good skill. Arguably, maybe Ellie Wood is better just because Erica does suffer a lot in like strength and defense comparable to Lynn, but I think if you're being like efficient, you're not going to bring Ellie along just when he's force deployed. You just try to keep him safe. Erica, I think you have more reason to train up because she's with you for a lot, especially in a Erica route or Ephraim route. She's still going to be able to first like 8 chapters of the game, chapter 15, the finale. Also, like with Ellie Wood, you kind of sometimes take the highest difficulty consideration. In this case, Hector mode, but I don't know if it's. I guess Ephraim route is harder than Erica, but I still think you should take Erica route into like effect when talking about like utility. But either way, neither of them are that good. I think I'm going to give it the edge to Erica. But yeah, just she's not that good because of her like poor defenses and strength, still being the problems of a sword lock unit. But she has some potential. Gets a mount front promotion. Like with the rapier, gets a strong weapon later on. She enjoys for a few chapters. So yeah, her brother Ephraim, uh, very comparable to Hector, just very good units, not game breaking or anything, but very good at combat, 1-2 range. I think Ephraim's a little bit better because he gets a horse when he promotes. Hector always has to deal with low movement, but I mean it's very close. You could argue that it's like, well, by the time you get the horse, it's like the game's already over. You can just kind of warp skip the chapters, but I think that's just enough to like give him an edge. And he gets to enjoy his special weapon longer than Hector. Just gets it literally the last battle. I don't think he's quite as good as a character though. I don't know, some people think Ephraim's boring, but I think just the journey of the Blood Knight just loves combat for the thrill of it, but also wonders like if what he's doing is right. It's like, why do I like this combat so much? Seeing his interactions with his sister, trying to protect her, it's cute. I would argue sometimes, especially between Eric and Ephraim, it's a little too cute, if you know what I mean. But I'm not going to dock him points heavily for that. I just think he's fairly interesting. Let's see. Oh, yeah, also forgot Lelina from the Binding Blade. Start with unit first. Better than Roy. It's not saying much, in my opinion. Yeah, she is frail, but having access to 1-2 range, you can contribute with chip, or if you want to like get the kill if you miss, you can set that way. Hitting on enemies' resistance is nice. When you get promoted, you get promoted earlier than Roy, and you'll have access to healing. You can help in like chapter 14, that desert map. Fast support with Roy to help them both out. But still, just not that good. Requires a lot of investment, which is fun. Well, depending on your point of view, it's fun, but it's not very efficient. Let's see. Oh, I think as far as unit, think about here's good. Somewhere between Makai and Leaf. As a character, she's all right. She just doesn't have much to do. I would have liked if Binding Blade ever gets a remake. I would like to have an expanded role in the story, just more dialogue with Roy. She's gonna be one of those characters. If she dies in battle, she's like, "Oh, I can't fall here," quote, and so she can still contribute to the story. But docking her from her character somewhat for not seeing it, but what you do see, I think, is fairly nice. So next we have Awakening. Go ahead and start with Crom. We'll start with Crom Robin. Just very good. One of the strongest lords in the series. battling par, I'd say, with like Seliph maybe. Just start strong, just keeps getting stronger. Even you can just pair with Robin, go for like the Robin solo. Very good stats. Very good growth. Of course, everyone in Awakening just has very good growth, but Crom being force deployed, he's a very good candidate. Just for grind up, investing in that sort of thing. I actually okay. This is going to be controversial. A lot of people think Crom's just very bland and Marth 2.0, but I think he has. It might just be my bias in here. Awakening was my first game, placing him above Marth, but I think he has a bit more depth to him just because he's a bit of a hothead. You see him just instantly trying to oppose Gangrel early on, but then of course the game he like learns as a journey. I think he's one of the very few Awakening characters that isn't a static character. It's like different by the game's end. That's in part because he gets the most screen time. Many characters love the joining chapter, and then they'll contribute, or you see a lot of personalities, and they're like static battle quotes, and their support conversations just kind of reset. You see them go through an arc from C to B to A to S, and just reset when they see support with someone. But Crom, because you see him in the story a lot, I think his does have a journey, does have an arc. It's fairly nice. We got Robin, right up there with Sigurd. Sigurd starts out strong, very good base stats, but of course he's going to cap his level. He gets slightly worse, I guess you might say, as the game goes on. No, not exactly. He gets powerful tools. Anyway, comparing him to Robin, Robin does need a little bit of babying early on, especially in higher difficulties from Frederick. But once he gets going, very good growth, can be pretty much any class. There are some gender exclusives, but Robin can be either gender. I don't have the female Robin pulled up, but I'm just going to go for both. You can be any class, get any skill. Robin solo is one of the most efficient ways I've been told to beating like Lunatic Plus. Very, very good unit. As a character, I think I kind of see where people come from. It's just like the standard Avatar, but I think of the Avatar characters in Fire Emblem, I think he's the most well done. Like, for some reason, this list doesn't include Chris, but you got like Chris and Corin. It's almost like they're almost like textbooks, Mary Sue's, and it's like everything's about me. Oh, look how wonderful I am. Violet's just nothing. And Robin, he does have something of a personality. You don't get to see it much because, the standard tropes of like a Avatar character like Amnesia, so it can be more relatable. But it is interesting. You actually get to see him cutscenes like coming up with strategies. I think he's like just enough to be passable. He's still not the most complex character, but yeah, he's all right. Also, Lucina. I'm going to talk about them as a character first. A lot of people think Lucina's flat in more ways than one, but again, I might just be my bias, but I think Lucina was a fairly interesting character. Like, you see her supports with her mother. She automatically gets to see support with her mother when she joins. She's like, "Oh, I got this nice dress for you," and the mom's like, "Whoa, what kind of dress? All those exotic colors?" And he's like, "Oh, when father sees you, he's going to scream in delight." And the mom's like, "Yeah, he'll scream all right." I think that says a lot about Lucina's character. Like, she's good at combat. She's trying to save the world. She's trying to put on a tough face, but she still is, emotional. She like cries up at certain scenes, and she doesn't know a lot of things about fashion. Also, it's kind of elaborated on. She doesn't have like a good sense of humor. She can't take a joke. And those are some characteristics. Yeah, I think she's all right. As a unit goes, it's very difficult to say because by the time she joins, most of your army is probably going to surpass her, going to be higher leveled. If you do grind her up, you can have a very great unit, but at the same time, she does require babying, and she's not like a game over condition. She's never force deployed, so it's kind of debatable whether or not you really need to train her up. Yeah, I think I'm just gonna split the difference and leave her right here. Just leave a character right on the edge. Like, you train her up somewhere over here, but do you need to? I'll just kind of split the difference. Next we got Fates, starting with Corrin. Uh, Corrin is let's see, hmm, not as good as Robin. I don't think it's as Crom. It says more about the kind of game Corrin is in than anything. Just because, like, especially in Conquest Path, all those like Hoshidan ninjas with like the stat debuffs, it's very difficult for any character to just completely solo and like curb stomp the game. But it's still very good dealing with damage, soaking up attacks. Skills also just aren't as broken here as they were in Awakening. It's still a very good unit. It's often said that Corrin is probably the worst lord in the series as far as personality is concerned. I think I do kind of agree with that, but it's more so of the fact of just aren't any characters like you can see on here. Even these and these, they're like very bottom. There's not many characters I actively hate. I actually do kind of like some aspects, like very start of a Birthright when Corrin is like, I think this is the best path. It leads to peace, but I don't like doing it. It's a tough decision I've had to make, but I have to can't bury my head in the sand and do nothing. I'm like, oh, that's relatable. Some of the aspects, especially in like the conquest part, very questionable. So again, it's like, well, there's Birthright Corrin, Conquest Corrin, and Revelation Corrin. I'll put them above these two. Maybe I should just tick people off, but not great, but not. There are moments I think of Corrin has character that I think is enough to put him above them. Overall, just I guess it has more to do with all the games. Like everything's like praising Corrin, how amazing Corrin is. Corrin can save us all. That sort of thing gets a little tiresome. Also got Xander, who might be better than Corrin. If you just compare them when they have them. Once Xander joins, but put them about the same. Very good unit. Comes on a horse, high mount. Comes with like a personal weapon. That, like all Fates with can't spray, but unlike most very good weapons, doesn't have any drastic downsides. 1-2 range. Very nice. I think Xander as a character is fairly interesting. A lot of people didn't like his Camus route and Birthright, but I think it doesn't mesh just because it takes so long for Xander to join Corrin, like the other routes, and it's just like you look at Revelation or Birthright or even like Conquest. It's like, why didn't do this sooner? So I guess that does kind of cancel out. Very lawful neutral in some aspects. I guess like many Camus archetypes. I guess we're gonna split the difference. Just leave Xander here. It's fine. Ryoma, just like these, he's probably not gonna be that high, but just like Robin and Sigurd before him, just an unstoppable killing machine. Almost can just practically solo anything. On higher difficulties, it's going to be more difficult. Oh, that was a redundant way of saying it, but on higher difficulties, it's not going to be as easy to just curb stomp the game with Ryoma. But even still, he's still going to be a very powerful force. Advantage, 1-2 range, Astra ability, crit, very good personal weapon, amazing. As far as the character goes, somewhat bland, just heroic, somewhat like hypocritical. You look at some of the stuff he says to Corrin, Conquest Right, look at the truth. I guess Xander has more complexity to him. I'll put him a little below Xander. Oh, you gotta leave him. No, I don't know why he's moving to the left though. He's definitely all the way over here, far right. Yeah, make sure everyone else is these three as like far right so they can go. Okay, next we have Fire Emblem Three Houses. Starting with Byleth, who just as a character, and I'm mixing up talking about unit first performance or character performance, but just as a character, it's not terrible, not like the worst thing where you don't hate him, but at the same time, you just don't anything him. He's like, I guess he's not an annoying protagonist, but just being like a blank slate, just pretty much being borderline silent protagonist. It's just hard to like relate to him or find much about him that interesting. But as a unit, if there's big circle hodgepodge here, he's very good. Still has problems, I think, in that unlike other students, you can't train him the same way. You have to use your activity points wisely if you want to invest in his flying or magic or whatever. So that does hurt him a little bit, but his stats are just very good. Being the only one who uses the Sublime Sword of the Creator, that's very nice. Hard to say. I guess I'll put him like somewhere in this circle. Gotta put someone right here now. Will be complete. But I think here's good. Very good unit. Requires has some problems like namely his training, but not as I think unstoppable as like these guys here. But still very good. Dimitri probably better than Byleth, just because he automatically gets access to that like flying class. Still, all the lords I think actually is probably better than him, probably like right here, but gains access to that flying class. Arrows are fairly good in 3 houses. That's nice. As a character, I think a lot of people like Claude a lot. He's just a funny guy, but also you do kind of understand his motivations, what he's truly trying to accomplish. It's an interesting tale. It's kind of a shame his route is like barely about him. Like you can take Claude and Dimitri's route. If you remove them from the story, you don't have it. They're central to it. And Claude's, you can remove him from the story, and they did in Silver Snow. It's like the same thing. But just Claude himself, I think, is very nice. Dimitri is the best Lord. Okay, maybe not quite as good as D3, but it's like barely. Move him like an inch over. I can't grab him. There we go. Inch. There we go. Still just my favorite Lord in the series, probably the most interesting and complex. Like I love his story and Azure Moon. Seeing him trying to resist his inner demons, then succumbing to them, and then ultimately overcoming them. Even though if you marry him with female Byleth, you learn it's like they still continue to haunt him, but he's still something he has to deal with. But you still see his triumph and just so many iconic lines, both funny and serious. Is this some kind of twisted joke? Could kill every last one of them. Amazing, interesting, complex character, and just as a unit, one of your best boss killers. That like monstrous strength growth. People know how busted, Battalion Wrath like Vantage is. I didn't actually use that, even without using that. Busted skill combinations. It's just Dimitri is truly amazing. The personal skill, boosts his experience. Just everything about him is an amazing unit. Gain access to lances, which lances are often good at mini games, and that's true here at 3 houses as well. Proficient in them. Get to have killer lances, scale lances, silver, and also javelins. Attack at multiple range. Overall, very, very good. I don't think as busted as these right here, but it's like just an inch difference, and very interesting character. We got Edelgard, also from 3 houses. As a unit, I think in like very efficient playthrough, she probably is the best of the Lord, but somewhere around like my skill level, I mean, she's good. It's just like Axes. I guess she just didn't leave a very good first impression. Like in the starting chapter of the prologue, she'll have like around 70 accuracy, and she misses. She can still like deal with that for a while. Proficient in like armor, so she doesn't, fly like Claude. She's not proficient in like riding if you want to make a mounted class. So that's something. You don't have to go just with the proficient, and you can obviously make everyone just a wyvern rider, which I've been told is the only way to beat Madden mode. But still very good. Like good strength growth, good stats, good class options. As a character, this one's kind of tricky. How am I trying to phrase it? I guess technically, like from a character perspective, you do kind of like her. She's like interesting. I do kind of like her, but I don't agree with her. But just so much I don't like agree with her ideals. Just gonna put her on rock bottom. I don't want to go too much into it because it's difficult talking without going into spoilers. I know Railguard definitely has her fans, which we get any comments on this video. Just ask that try to be respectful of Railguard fans. I may not like the character, but people are certainly entitled to like it. I guess that goes true for Edelgard fans as well. Talking about Dimitri stands like me, but I mean, if they insult me, that doesn't reflect poorly on me. It's like whatever. But a Dimitri stan, calling mocking like Edelgard fans, fanboys, simps, that sort of thing. So yeah, that reflects poorly on me. Try to be respectful, but difficult to go into that kind of spoilers. I just think like she had some good ideas, some good goals. My biggest problem is just the way she goes about implementing them. Especially she doesn't really try to aim for like alternate motives first, and like she's like, well, I've tried this, I've tried that, I've tried X, Y, and Z, and like this is the only way to accomplish my goals. It's like I think there were other ways of goals. There are other ways of achieving your goals. Claude and Dimitri definitely would have helped in some of those other ways. The ruler of the heir to the Holy Kingdom of Fargus, heir to the Leicester Alliance. They got connections. I think all three of them could have, rooted out some of the negative problems Edelgard had, but she had to go about things her way. It's just, I don't like it. Next, we got Alphonse and Sharina from Heroes. Not super familiar with Fire Emblem Heroes. I beat like book 2, I think, as far as I got. I've been told these 2 units, because you can't get multiple of them, you can't merge them. Their long-term viability isn't as good as some of the others, but as someone who often does like to use the characters who are the most story relevant, I did try to use them as often as I could in the maps, and they work fine. Probably get outclassed. Like I guess that's the way you put them, especially if you're just playing like basic book modes, basic difficulty. They're fine, just not as good as some of the other things you can get. I guess put them slightly here. I think Sharina's better because let's scoot everyone over some. Yeah, everyone's worse. Everyone's bad. But it's because of that. I think she just like Chaz. I think she boosts someone's attack. As you tells me, I'm also played Heroes. I thought that's a bigger contribution than Alphonse, but just to the left of good unit. I guess that's good. As far as the character, I don't really remember much about him. It's Sharina's kind of sweet, I guess. But this thing's about good. I don't remember these 2 names. They're just from Hero or Warriors, which I don't have super much experience with. So I could put them on here just to my best knowledge. I could play Warriors for like an hour or so, but I think it's best to leave them off and just leave it this. And yeah, that's it. It's a big weird circle here. I didn't plan to do that. Not many characters, dislike. You got, Edelgard standing out, but even then they're like, yeah, compared to some of the others, don't like them, but I don't hate them. Some bad lords, and so some good, some decent, and some very good. Yeah, I think this is fine. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a great day. Bye.